in the icy valleys of North America, where blizzards can swallow up any footprints in a single night. These survival hunters still quietly venture deep into the forest, setting traps, building fires, and risking their lives.
Take out each sheet, each meal.
Because there is no room for error here, and only those with enough courage can survive until the end of the season. In Montana's icy river valley, the recent surge in beaver populations has caused considerable trouble for the livelihoods of the local people. Every spring, when the snow and ice melt, the dams built by beavers cause the water level to rise, leading to floods. Danger. Tom sharpened his knife and began to process his prey. This young beaver has exceptionally tender, fatty meat, making it an ideal nutritious dish for winter. Nanny stir-fried beaver meat with mushrooms and onions. The captivating aroma quickly spread throughout the wooden house. Tom couldn't wait. The two of them ate their fill and enjoyed an unforgettable meal. A few days later, Tom received a special order. The guest wanted a traditional shelter made from long logs and animal skins. This embodies the wisdom passed down by the indigenous people for thousands of years.
Today, very few people possess this skill, and Tom is one of them.
Their old friend Win Vincent comes to help. The two share a life-or-death friendship. They went into the forest and cut down 13 pine trees.
The ideal log is
about 8 m long, with a musical diameter of 8 centimeters at the base and 3 centimeters at the tip. It must be perfectly straight, but in the dense forest, finding good musical wood is not easy. Tom and Win split up to work, using their axes to cut down any suitable trees they encountered. After 3 hours of hard work, they finally gathered enough material. The subsequent steps become even more complex. Tom used specialized knives and scissors to peel the bark from each log, avoiding the rough surface from wearing away the animal hide covering it. But the cold weather causes the bark to freeze, making it more difficult to peel. This work should have been done in the spring, but now they can only grit their teeth and endure it. It took a total of 2 hours to process all the wood. The final step is assembly. They tied 3 logs together to form a sturdy tripod frame, erected it, and then leaned the other logs against it. Add other pieces of wood to the frame. The initial shape of the traditional shelter gradually emerged, then covered with a layer of animal skin to become a tent. Use immediately. Currently, the production frame has reached a level where they can deliver goods, allowing them to earn a decent amount of money. The old man is 70 years old this year, still in his prime, hunting deer in the mountains or catching beavers in the river, or set traps for animals. Even the music and even the ferocious gray wolf were his trophies. That was the old hunter Tom, in the River Valley. In Montana early this morning, Tom drove to his neighbor's farm. I heard that a wild animal stole several laying hens from the coop. The farmer was furious but helpless, so he had no choice but to seek help from the experienced Tom. After arriving at the scene, Tom began observing the footprints in the snow, and they quickly realized these were the tracks of a wolverine. He had shot one not long before, so he was very familiar with the behavior of the species. Weasels are extremely gluttonous, and once they've tasted the bitterness of being in a chicken coop, they'll definitely use it. Keep going and back again and again. All the chicken here. Therefore, Tom had to quickly catch it to avoid causing more damage to the neighbors. Stepping into the chicken coop and seeing the scattered chicken feathers and bones on the ground only reinforced his suspicions. In the corner, a newly dug cave caught Tom's attention. Clearly, the weasel entered through here. If we make good use of this opening, we can catch it. So Tom took out a trap and set it right in front of the shop. To prevent the animal from escaping the trap, he used a wooden stick to secure it. But the cramped space made it very difficult to operate. With a slight carelessness in the music, he triggered the trap. Sharp clip nearly broke my finger. This accident serves as a wake-up call that hunting does not allow for even the slightest carelessness. Tom adjusted the trap and used steel wire to securely fasten it to the wooden stake to ensure absolute safety. In the farewell gaze of the hens as Tom left the coop, early the next morning he hurried. And then they went back to check. As soon as he opened the door, a strong, foul odor hit him in the face, making Tom almost vomit. This inexplicable foul smell puzzled him greatly. Upon closer inspection, it was clear the trap had securely locked a wolverine that had frozen to death. But that's not the source of the smell. Tom bent down and looked into the cave and saw a ball of fur. He grabbed its tail and pulled it out, and it turned out to be a baby skunk. Even though he had been dead for a long time, the stench still made Tom cough violently. Tom guessed from the music that the skunk was trying to steal chickens, but encountered a wolf and was knocked down by it. The wolf, engrossed in the music, didn't notice the trap. In the end, they both perished. It's true that the praying mantis catches the cicada music. The sparrow chuckled with delight at having obtained 2 fake photos at once. He not only made money, but also earned the gratitude of his neighbors. Who knows, maybe we'll even get to enjoy some delicious roasted chicken. Tom picked up his loot and drove over to his neighbor's house. One ordinary morning, as he was swinging his axe to chop firewood, a familiar figure caught his eye. I was stunned. Cha's son, who was living in Florida, made an appearance in the home music. It turned out Chat was worried about his parents' health, so he asked for a few days off to visit them. This made Tom extremely happy, and he decided to take his son to experience life in the mountains. Right now is the season when deer shed their antlers. These antlers are excellent material for making knife handles. Hearing that music quality also seemed very interesting. The father and son braved the snow to set off. In the vast wilderness, finding deer antlers is no easy task. But luckily, Tom knew where the deer usually roamed. They were driving the snowmobile for about 15 miles through the woods when Tom suddenly slammed on the brakes and ran up, shouting like, Under the tree lay a deer antler, and that single antler alone could fetch Tom $200. That joyful scene, that joyous spectacle, left even the son standing beside them stunned. The two continued walking for a short while before Tom stopped again and asked his son if he had noticed anything. After looking around for a while, and at his father's suggestion, he finally spotted the striking pale white deer antler. Snowy ground. He couldn't help but admire his father's keen eye. Although Tom is old, his keen observational skills still far surpass those of younger people. Collecting deer antlers is actually quite an interesting musical. Artist gradually came to love this feeling. But just as the father and son were immersed in the joy of the harvest, an accident occurred when the vehicle skidded. Tom's snowmobile won't start. I tried several times, but it still didn't work. Seeing that it was getting dark, Tom remembered there was a hunting music hut nearby belonging to his friends, so he decided to stay. The two of them were riding a snowmobile towards their destination, crossing the dense forest, when suddenly a scene unfolded before them. The vast landscape is a frozen lake. The wooden house by the shore was in the distance, but as they sped towards it, the snowmobile suddenly lurched. The lake shook violently because a layer of snow along the shore covered a large area of the snowmobile, weighing over 250 kilograms, immediately got stuck in the mud. Despite their best efforts, the father and son couldn't budge this massive block of iron. In the emergency, Tom cleverly cut some pine branches and placed them under the wheels to create friction. Thanks to that, the sled finally regained traction, and with the added music pushing from behind, the car got exerted more force. As night fell, the father and son sat by the warm fire, chatting about everyday life. For the first time, I truly felt my father's deep love for these mountains and forests. Watching the music, my father's face lit up with a contented smile in the flickering firelight, and finally he doesn't want to move to the city. Because this is his real hiding place. The next morning, the two woke up in the wooden house with hungry stomachs and immediately went to the frozen lake in front of the house to go fishing. They shoveled away the layer of snow on top and then used a twist drill to bore holes. Having been used to sea fishing, this was my first time drilling through ice, so I was completely exhausted. Just drilling the first hole for the music already made my hand tired, but I still had to drill another. Meanwhile, Tom had started fishing but hadn't caught anything yet. On the contrary, Chat was the first to catch a perfectly fresh fish. Finally, the father and son were able to eat. Grilling fish in foil is the best way to prepare it right now. Just moments after tearing off the foil, the aroma spread, and the father and son ate to their heart's content. Experienced the full flavor of the pristine mountain forest. After eating, they set off for the return journey, first going back to the scene of the accident to try starting the snowmobile. It was broken, but no miracle occurred. Reluctantly, they had to tie the two cars together with a rope and officially head home. After a while, the familiar wooden house appeared before their eyes, and they had arrived safely. After this wilderness adventure, Chat witnessed firsthand his father's survival skills, gradually understanding respect the lifestyle he has chosen. Now you can go home with peace of mind. As time passed, spring quietly arrived, the snow melted, and the streams merged to form rivers. The swirling currents caused considerable inconvenience to residents along the river. Tom and his neighbor went to the pond to deal with this seasonal problem.
That's the blockage of the waterway caused by beavers.
Upon reaching the first pond, the sight that greeted them both made them frown, as the beaver had used branches and mud built dams that completely blocked the drainage routes. The river, which was supposed to flow freely, was forced to change course, causing the surrounding land to be flooded and turn into a swamp. While clearing away branches and complaining about the trouble caused by the beaver, the two claimed they had caused. Those who commit wrongdoing must be punished. After cleaning up, Tom took out a musical animal trap and shared his experience that of Hi. When Mai discovers the dam has been broken, she will stubbornly return to repair it, and that's when she falls into the trap. Having set up the traps, the two continued patrolling along the river. The water flowed more forcefully, the icy water soaking my trousers, but the cold in my heart was even greater. More so because there is still a lot of snow on the mountain that hasn't melted yet. This signals that a larger flood is forming. And downstream, they discovered an even more intractable problem, a 15-meter wide ice dam blocking the riverbed. The river caused the water level to rise. They both sprang into action, first working together to pull a large log stuck in the ice crevice, then using long sticks, stirring up the accumulated ice blocks. Thanks to that effort, the blocked water finally found an outlet and flowed down. Having dealt with this threat, they went home to wait. The next morning, returning to the pond to check the traps, Eli the hunting dog excitedly ran around because he had caught a beaver. Ignoring the cold water, the two waded straight in to see what it was and found it was a fully grown beaver weighing about 20 kilograms. Tom obtained a high-quality hide and at the same time dealt a fatal blow to the beaver pack, causing them to be unable to keep up. No more birds will come. As the music of the season changes, the trapping season officially ends. Tom's log cabin was filled with the fruits of the season, including all kinds of animal hides and sharpened knives, and meticulous details and handcrafted items made by Nancy. These products, with their distinct mountain and forest characteristics, are very popular. Loaded all the goods onto the truck, the most valuable of which was a perfectly preserved gray wolf skin. Sell for at least $600. The joy of a bountiful harvest brought radiant smiles to the two old men's faces. With Nancy's blessing, Tom started the car and headed towards the city's trading market, bringing the story to a busy season. The roosters had suddenly disappeared. The culprit was a weasel, and the animal was caught by the farm owner. To punish it for its wrongdoing, he stripped it naked and ate its flesh to vent his anger. This is the Bluck Mountain Range. Stoss owns about 200 acres of land, but also has a debt of $45,000. To pay off his debts, he has been working day and night for the past 2 years. From chopping wood to forging iron, Anything that earns money is not left out in the music. As the debt was nearing repayment, the feeling of relief was like a weight being lifted off his shoulders. And now there's another money-making opportunity, as a few days ago a sudden big storm caused a landslide destroyed a road. A local farmer asked him to repair it and was willing to pay handsomely. Stas happily accepted the offer. Priestone and his longtime colleague arrived at the scene and found the road quite badly damaged, so the two of them exchanged to agree on a repair plan. Then he started the chainsaw, cut away the obstructing logs, and threw them down the slope to use as support posts. Then they both climbed down the slope and hammered the logs into the ground. They stacked those logs into a solid defensive line, and then climbed on top to chop more music. Throw in more plants and throw them all down to expand the area at the bottom. The final step is to add more fresh soil to the mud pit. Thanks to this soil, the road was finally restored to normal. Although working tirelessly all day left him completely exhausted, Stas considered this income acceptable. Having completely escaped the burden of debt, he was in an extremely joyful mood. Next, he can calmly plan for the future. After much consideration, he concluded that the timber business was the most promising, and he happened to own a workshop. I bought the saw from an old man in the mountains. Despite its centuries-old history and dilapidated condition, it remains a treasure in the heart of Stas. Lately, the machinery has been malfunctioning frequently when he presses the switch, the engine emitting a piercing screeching sound. The music played for a few seconds, then stopped completely. Start by spraying a little lubricant on it, then the engine will start running again. The two musicians began inspecting each part of the lumber transport cart. Although it still runs, the gears are malfunctioning, causing a noticeable increase in After turning off the power, they looked for the cause of the creaking sound coming from the pulley. Adding more oil didn't help either. Since they weren't professionals, they couldn't identify the problem, and the only solution was to tighten it up. The entire cage is filled. Surprisingly, the machine worked smoothly despite that simple operation. Seeing the device return, the two of them couldn't stop smiling. Next, they tested the saw in practice, and only felt reassured when they saw that the cut surface of the wood was smooth. With Kai's old sawmills, there will be a constant stream of people coming in. Stas's lips curved into a smile involuntarily, as this was his dream career. But just a few days later, he encountered a new musical problem: transporting the timber. Even with several strong horses, they couldn't handle the large quantity of wood. Trucks are a good option, but the high price of gasoline makes filling up every time painful. Convert the smoke produced from burning wood into flammable gas to replace red ochre gasoline. The two men immediately set off for the junkyard in the forest, a treasure trove of mountain dwellers, where anyone needing spare parts can come and find them themselves. This time AS needed a gas pump to recirculate the fuel, but after rummaging through several broken down cars, they still couldn't find it first. Just when both of them were getting bored with the music, an overturned car caught their attention. Prieden bent down to check, but the air pump had stopped music. Still, my eye spotted a component under the passenger seat that was exactly what I needed. The two men happily returned to the yard and began the renovation. Stas started the welding torch to cut a discarded furnace tube to make the body of the gasification furnace. After cutting it in half, use a power drill to create two ventilation holes. Next, they found two more large iron barrels and modified them into a combustion chamber and a filter. One of the containers is used to burn wood and produce smoke. The remaining tank has the music function of separating and filtering flammable gases. The most important step is connecting this entire system to the truck engine. A hole was drilled in the side of the car, music. A plastic connector was fitted, and then some fuel lines were used to connect the entire system. It wasn't until nightfall that they finished the renovations and began testing. Half a bag of sawdust was poured into the fuel tank, then the torch was placed on the ignition source to start the fire. It's drawn in and burns inside. Looking through the observation window, the flames flickered like the gates of hell opening, because it's not certain that the combustion gases will be pumped into the engine. Keep the machine running continuously. Prieden checked the fan and saw that air was blowing out, indicating they had succeeded. Just as the magical moment was about to arrive, AS started the car. Suddenly, a loud bang rang out, blowing the lid of the incinerator off and startling both of them. Upon checking the music, I realized the air had frozen due to the extremely cold weather. The next day, when the temperature rose, they tried again. Thick smoke continuously emanated from the shoes when Stas turned the key. The truck roared to the heavens. They finally succeeded and drove the car out for a test drive. Indeed, new technology is the leading productive force. However, whether the truck is capable of transporting timber remains a question. So today they decided to test its capabilities. The first challenge is climbing steep hill. Things went smoothly at first, but as we neared the summit, the momentum weakened, causing the vehicle to come to a standstill on the mountainside. Stas kept pressing the gas pedal, building up enough power, and the car started to move and overtake the top of the hill. The first test was considered a pass. When they arrived, they cut down a dead acacia tree weighing about 500 pounds, cut the trunk into 3 sections, and the car is for filming the music. But we hadn't gone very far when the car suddenly stalled and wouldn't restart. A recent check revealed that the fuel had run out. Luckily, there was no shortage of firewood in the forest, so they gathered some on the spot. The car restarted and eventually descended the mountain safely. This delivery proves that the vehicle can be a completely reliable tool for them. A few days later, the Blue Ridge Mountains experienced an extremely cold snap. A storm with ice and heavy rain is coming. Stas is building a wooden shed to protect the planks from the harsh winter. Only when kept dry can the wood fetch a high price. Now all that's left is the roofing. This place requires 20 metal supports. Stas uses scrap metal to forge them. But at the crucial moment, the circuit breaker ran out of power. Clearly the battery system has experienced a music malfunction. They followed the water pipes to investigate, and the sight that greeted them made their hearts stop. It turned out that the water intake was blocked by a thick layer of ice, preventing water from flowing into the generator. Stas grabbed the ice rink and started smashing things. Amidst the broken ice fragments, the water inlet gradually became visible, but strangely, this indicates that other sections of the pipeline are also blocked. Since the water pipe is 76 meters long, finding the exact blockage is not easy at all. Stas continues processing in the filter area. When a large iceberg falls, water in the pipe suddenly gushes out with great force, accompanied by many ice fragments. The congestion problem seems to have been resolved. The two men return to the yard, plugged in the device, and flipped the switch. The cutting machine is now working normally again. They exchanged smiles and then continued with their work. The snowstorm in the Blue Ridge Mountains has lasted for several days. The biting wind howled, whipping snow directly into Star's face. He looked anxiously toward the distant mountain where there was a pasture. Surely the music was also covered in snow. Private. Without food, the horses will have an extremely difficult time surviving. Stas immediately decided to move the horses to a warmer stable. Braving the biting wind and cold music, he and his companions struggled to ascend the mountain. A distance of only 1 mile felt endless in the snowstorm. When they finally reached the pasture, they discovered the horses had disappeared, and a sense of foreboding washed over them. The two of them began searching. The footing area is very spacious. They rode for several miles, but still saw no sign of the herd of horses. Upon arrival, a cheerful neighing sound unexpectedly rang out. It turned out the horses were playing in the open field, looking healthy and not hungry at all. But their appearance caused a commotion among the horses. An aggressive white horse charges forward and accidentally kicks the horse behind it, music, creating a chaotic scene. After a commotion, the horses calmed down, but the reins of the black horse had broken, so Stas was temporarily left alone. Repairs. He rode this horse, leading a few others down the mountain. The remaining, musical, creatures voluntarily lined up behind. He controlled the speed to avoid panicking, and eventually the whole group arrived home safely. Right now, they breathed a sigh of relief and fed the horses licorice to calm their nerves while waiting for the storm. And what heinous crime did my second brother commit that 2 strong men carried him up to the butcher's stand? Music. Peel it open and slaughtered by my father. When the snowstorm in Blue Rick finally subsided, a beautiful sunny morning, music unfolded. Stas and Preston went out into the garden to tend to the winter plants, an important food source for people living a subsistence lifestyle in the mountains. But upon arrival, they were stunned to see the plastic greenhouse completely destroyed. Vegetables were scattered everywhere, the ground was turned up, and the clear footprints on the ground revealed the hand. The culprit was a wild boar. Stas was furious because the wild boar had an incredible appetite. Music. It could devour up to 10 kilograms of food a day. Even worse, once they discover the buffet here, these gluttons will definitely play music. He came back every day, so the two of them had to stop him. Freestone followed the trail and found the way the wild boars had entered the area. Identifying the right direction makes everything much easier. They immediately sprang into action, grabbed 2 rifles from the house, and headed deep into the woods. The Blue Rick Mountains provide an ideal habitat for wild boars, with abundant food sources that allow them to thrive. Large and ferocious, possessing sharp fangs, even bears can become vulnerable when cornered. Stas cautiously advanced, slowly raising his rifle, but the dense branches ahead obscured his firing angle. They had no choice but to take the risk. It moved up more than 10 meters. Luckily, the pig hasn't been discovered yet. Stas was ready to gently pull the trigger. Gunfire echoed throughout the mountains and forests to avoid the injured animal launching a desperate counterattack. They didn't rush to close the distance, but waited a while before advancing. Although no wild boar was visible, there were still fresh bloodstains on the ground. Following the trail of blood, they discovered the wild boar lying dead on the slope. The perpetrator of that disaster eventually paid the price for his greed. Following hunter tradition, Roan added another, musical, stab with his knife to the wild boar's neck if it hadn't already. Death itself could quickly put an end to the suffering. Then the 2 men carried the wild boar back home, and when they arrived, they hung it on the meat rack. Death is not the end. It must pay the price, through music, for what it has done. Destroying crops requires sacrificing one's own flesh to atone for the damage. The 2 men worked skillfully, each stroke of the knife precisely following the muscle fibers. In just half an hour, the entire pig's skin and head were separated. To reveal the high-quality, pinkish meat, they divide it into different sections. Of these cuts, the tenderloin is the most tender and delicious, so it looking at those tempting chunks of meat, he smiled contentedly. He used to hate this wild boar so much, but now he loves it just as much. Thinking about the large quantity of meat, enough for them to use for a long time, and moreover, unlike dried venison. Fatty pork is the perfect ingredient for a barbecue that both of them were eager to enjoy. The moment the first bite of grilled meat enters your mouth, the rich, savory flavor immediately spreads throughout your tongue. Stas couldn't help but praise it as the perfect barbecue, while the 2 of them devoured the bear. They even hoped the garden could summon another wild boar, which would be truly perfect. After resolving the potential musical threat, they focused their energy back on their work. The sawmill continued to produce wood, but he accidentally strained his arm muscles, so the burden fell entirely on him. Companion. Although Priestone was still a newcomer to music, under Stas's patient guidance, he became increasingly proficient with the machine. They became more skilled at sawing. To expand their logging business, AS decided to build an additional timber storage facility after. Once their hand wounds healed, the two immediately got back to work. The first step in the expansion project was to erect temporary supports and then assemble them using long bolts. Back together. And this requires a lot of bolts. As remembered a neighbor who was jokingly called the director because he never threw anything away. Since the house had everything, I arranged to meet him at the junkyard. Before long, they both arrived and the director was already waiting with music. After listening. Regarding the need, he said he did indeed have some bolts, but they were all stored in some blue car. I can't remember exactly which one it was. So the three of them began searching the garbage dump, checking each abandoned blue car. Unfortunately, the first two boats didn't catch anything. It wasn't until they opened the door that the third AS car discovered the bolts on the seat, a perfect fit that cost. It's also half the price of buying it in a store. On the way back, the two were so excited that they unconsciously urged their horses to go faster. Just then, the carcass of a squirrel by the roadside caught my attention. Stas got down to check and discovered it had just been hit by a car a short while ago. The meat was still very fresh, a real surprise. He quickly tied the squirrel to the horse's saddle, calculating that tonight's meal might be more enjoyable. When they got home, they had to assemble the frame first. AS took out a specialized twist drill, which made drilling the holes much easier. He held the musical instrument firmly, and the wood was quickly pierced by the rotating drill bit. Next, they inserted the long screws into the holes, secured them with bolts, and then tightened them with a wrench. This seemingly simple process is directly related to the structural integrity of the entire frame. If the music isn't securely fixed, the wooden shed could easily tilt and collapse later on. After finishing all that hard work, the two of them were finally able to prepare dinner. But one squirrel is clearly not enough to satisfy hunger. Luckily, they had caught a wild rabbit a few days earlier, and the meat from both of them was just enough for two people. Muscular men. After peeling the skin, cut the meat into pieces and add flour, salt, and pepper to taste. Mix well, then drop into the pan of oil and fry. A sizzling sound, music, rang out, accompanied by an alluring aroma that quickly spread throughout the room. Considering that squirrel meat is more tender, they decided to enjoy that part first. As the hot piece of meat enters your mouth, the sweet, juicy juices burst forth on your tongue. They bit down hard on the tender meat and then gave it a sharp tug. The sensation of tearing flesh is like being transported back to a primitive era. Even without fine wine to liven things up, having delicious food and a close friend by your side is a rare moment of happiness. It exists in life. The Blue Rick Mountains are about to enter the rainy season, so they need to finish building the timber shed as soon as possible. The building has a two-story structure, and the final step, which is also the most important part, is constructing the roof. Only a perfect roof can protect the wood from rain and wind. They built the machine frame out of wooden planks and then needed to add more panels on top, due to budget constraints. Music bought 10 old sheets of corrugated iron cheaply from a farm 30 miles away. The two men were driving a modified pickup truck to pick up goods, but they ran into trouble on the first hill. The slippery mountain surface caused the car to They got out of the car, shoveled away some of the mud, then reversed the car, and then accelerated from the bottom of the slope upward momentum. The idea was good, but the car's engine wasn't powerful enough, so the music got stuck in the mud at the last minute, which was frustrating. At the crucial moment, Pridan came up with the idea of using a winch. They tied a rope to a large tree nearby, music, inserted a piece of wood in the middle to twist it. At the same time, Stas used large rocks to block the rear wheels to prevent the car from sliding backward. The car finally managed to get out of the mud puddle with difficulty. The two continued on their way, circling around to the other side of the farm to hook the dent onto the car and then proceeded straight to the destination. On the flat road, the car was going quite fast, and soon they arrived at a poultry farm that was about to be dismantled. Corrugated iron roofing sheets. That is the goal of this trip. They climbed onto the roof themselves, carefully removed the nails, and threw each plank down to the ground. When they had gathered enough, get in the car and go back. Under the brilliant sunset, the car sped along, and the journey went smoothly. By the time it got dark, they were safely home. The car has once again proven its practical value. The next day, they continued the unfinished roasting work. One person stood on the roof, while another on the ground attempted to use a rope to pull the corrugated iron sheets. But after trying repeatedly without success, I ended up ruining a valuable piece. Learning from their previous experience, they used wooden planks to pre-assemble a pulley system. Thanks to that, the two men were able to slowly and smoothly lift the sheets of corrugated iron without any further incident. Next comes the process of installing the corrugated iron roofing. Amidst the clanging of hammers, the roof gradually came to completion. And after several hours of hard work, they finally finished roofing the house. With no way down, he was forced to risk climbing down from the nearby tree in the light. With a worried look in his eyes, Roan finally landed safely on the ground. At this point, the construction of the new wooden warehouse is considered completely finished. The two were extremely excited because this was not just a project, but also the beginning of accumulating wealth, products, and a bright future ahead. Driven by his dream, Charles gave up his high-paying job in logging to embark on a tough life. Snakes in the mountains and forests. But the reality was extremely harsh, as a lack of experience, coupled with unexpected injuries, before his music became a disaster. Not only did they spend all their savings, but they also had to sell their beloved snowmobile to overcome the difficulties. After several months of struggling, A new opportunity arose when my close friend Jim came to visit and brought a ticket map. And this year, Charlie decided to move his traps to a new location in the Machias River Basin, 30 miles away. The area with its network of streams and springs is ideal for beavers to live in, but because it's so remote and wild, few hunters dare to take the risk. Char decided to take a gamble. Jim drove him 20 miles to an abandoned logging road. Charlie could only walk the remaining 10 miles alone. After parting ways with Jim, he packed his bags and embarked on an unknown journey. Despite his anxieties, he didn't want to give up this free lifestyle. Even though the road ahead was difficult, Charlie was determined to reach the banks of the Machias River. His first task was to make that journey. It means building a shelter where one can stay for an extended period. First, he had to build a fire to keep warm and ward off wild animals. Then he started cutting down trees. His intention was to design a practical double roof frame with a large musical log as the crossbeam, and other tree trunks are neatly arranged on either side. This type of frame is ideal for outdoor survival music because it's both simple and keeps you warm. When the frame was almost complete, snow suddenly started falling, forcing Cheklai to speed up. There aren't many left. He found pine branches to cover the frame to block the wind. After a race against time, the hiding place was finally completed. Although it looked crude, it was his only means of survival against the harsh cold. The next morning, the wind and snow were still howling. Charlie woke up and realized that last night she almost froze to death. After putting out the fire, he began setting the traps. Bad weather will certainly bring many variables. He was thrilled to find shoes with rabbit footprints on them, as rabbits are at the bottom of the food chain. Food. They would attract martens, music, or lynxes to hunt, and that was Charlie's goal. He hung a beaver tail on a tree as bait and set animal traps underneath. When a weasel climbs a tree to hunt for prey, a fatal blow awaits it. To increase their attractiveness, he also applied a special scented solution that ferrets could smell from afar. Distant. Besides trapping mink, Charlie also wanted to catch beavers because each skin could sell for up to $200. Although beavers usually hide in caves under the ice in winter, making them very difficult to catch, the entire beaver central dining area, and every day they will move between the cave and this place. Charlie's strategy was to set traps right along that route, and he began activating his underwater trapping devices. He drilled a rectangular hole in the ice, removed the ice blocks, and then dropped the animal trap connected to it. A piece of wood is lowered to a depth of about 1 meter underwater, then covered with ice chips to help the ice surface recover quickly. Close it tightly and go back to wait. Early the next morning, Charlie eagerly went to check the traps using the music. Sadly, the fox traps ahead were all empty, making his mood even heavier, and his hope dwindled. Their only hope now was the underwater trap. He carefully chipped away at the ice and shone his flashlight down. There seemed to be something underneath. When he lifted the log, he clearly felt its weight, and his prediction was indeed completely accurate. A chubby musical beaver gradually appeared before Charlie's eyes, causing her to clap excitedly. All the pressure vanished in that moment. This beaver not only boosted his morale, but also proved how incredibly rich this area is in resources. This opens up hope of washing away the humiliation and making up for all the losses of the previous season. In the dawnlight, the glass will surely awaken. Although the morning weather was still bitterly cold, it couldn't extinguish the burning passion in my heart. He went to check the traps again because there are usually more than a dozen sea urchins living in a cave. Upon arrival, he skillfully wielded his ice hammer, chiseling through the ice and clearing away the debris. A dark mass was dimly visible underneath. He quickly pulled the log up, and another plump beaver surfaced. Charlie laughed heartily, thinking this was truly a land of good feng shui, where the music brought in good fortune every day. After calming down, he rearranged the traps and, whistling, returned to the camp. But upon arriving, the sight before him instantly shattered his good mood. The beaver. The ones caught yesterday were bitten and torn to shreds. With its tail severely damaged, Charlie was seething with rage, and from the clear footprints in the snow, they realized the culprit was a coyote. These opportunistic animals specialize in finding readily available food and, once they spot it, will often return. This was completely unacceptable, so Charlie decided to teach the music, thief a lesson. An unforgettable experience. He carried a large animal trap with him while patrolling the camp. Because coyotes are territorial, simply finding a place with a high concentration of footprints will ensure they return. Before long, he found the ideal spot, buried the trap in the snow, and poured a specially prepared foul-smelling solution over it. This strong scent easily attracts predators. After setting everything up, he even erased his own footprints to minimize any human traces. Early the next morning, Charlie rushed to check on the situation because if he didn't resolve this problem, he wouldn't. You can work with peace of mind. Perhaps his prayers were answered, for from a distance, he saw the coyote lying slumped in the snow, its identity unknown. He didn't dare approach it because he didn't know if it was still alive or not. Instead, he made a long stick and slowly advanced, poke it and confirm it's dead. The musical, trap clamped tightly around its front leg, was the price it paid for confronting the hunter. Charlie muttered to himself as he dragged his spoils back. This wolf skin is meant as compensation for him. Time flies. Charlie has been here for a while now, and today is the day he reunites with an old friend. He delivered the livestock to Jim and also bought enough food for the next 4 weeks. On the sled were 2 beavers caught yesterday, along with beaver skins that had been dug up from the snowdrift. Snow can mask scents, effectively deterring wild animals from stealing. Benjuali slung his backpack over his shoulder and pulled his snowmobile towards the destination. He had to walk 6 miles, but the weather was not kind as it snowed heavily. Because the assembly point was located on the opposite bank of the glacier, the fresh snow had obscured the true condition of the ice. Made it very difficult for Charlie to find a safe place to cross the river. He could only rely on experience, tapping the ice as he cautiously moved forward. His instincts were quite accurate, so the journey went smoothly. Now only 2 meters remain. Because the scooter weighed about 75 kilograms, Charlie decided to push it across first. He pushed hard, and the sled steadily slid to the other side of the bank. The ice condition seems to be quite good. Next up is Chuckley's turn. He took cautious steps, but his guard lowered as he saw he was about to reach the shore. A misstep resulted in a break in the thin layer of ice, causing the person to fall into the icy water. The river water immediately soaked his clothes and boots. Even if they managed to crawl to safety, if they didn't quickly build a fire to warm themselves, they could have been killed in just 15 minutes. Charlie endured the discomfort, broke off a few branches, gathered some dry firewood, and used matches to start a fire. This place was still half a mile from where he was supposed to meet Jim, but Chuckley couldn't bring himself to continue. He could only use thick smoke as a signal, hoping Jim would see it. A moment after Jim's last figure appeared in the snowstorm, Charlie, overcome with emotion, shouted, and they embraced each other tightly. After exchanging greetings, they began handing over their belongings. Charlie carried provisions for the next month of music and then returned amidst the snow and ice. To increase his income, he checks the trapping lines in the My area every day. This is incredibly hard work, but the rewards are well worth it. When checking the next trap, Charlie discovered a rare white ferret. This type of fur, once highly prized among European elites, has now seen its market value plummet. It only sold for about $10. Clearly, this wasn't the harvest he had hoped for. With a touch of disappointment, he continued to check other traps, and this time he finally had some encouraging results. It's a test ferret with a glossy coat that could fetch $200. Charlie continued checking the next trap when the weather suddenly took a turn for the worse. The north wind music howled, carrying thick snowflakes that lashed directly into our faces to below 2 meters. The cold wind, mixed with icy mist, felt like countless tiny blades cutting across her face, causing Charlie returning to the music camp was no longer practical, so Charlie decisively decided to set up a temporary shelter. Time on the spot. He cut down a few logs and used a fallen tree trunk as a support to erect a simple windbreak wall. But useful. However, the danger didn't end there in the music, because the hard work made him sweat profusely. Her soaking wet clothes quickly caused her to lose body heat in the cold wind, making Charlie shiver uncontrollably. He understood that if he wasn't warmed up in time, hypothermia would quickly become life-threatening. When the wind subsided, he immediately gathered dry, flammable materials and quickly built a fire. The flickering fire provided warmth that finally helped to relax his tense nerves. Now you can go home. The sun was setting, and when Charlie, exhausted, returned to the camp, he was stunned by the sight and music.
The recent snowstorm has devastated his shelter.
My mood was terrible because I felt so insignificant compared to nature. But life must go on. He adjusted his emotions to prepare himself for the new challenge. Unbeknownst to him, a month had quietly passed, and Charlie had accumulated approximately $7,000. The animals are here, and today is the time to leave. He music specially prepared a lavish breakfast both to celebrate and to say goodbye. According to local regulations, he was forced to dismantle the shelter he had worked so hard to build. As he climbed onto the roof to dismantle it, an indescribable feeling of nostalgia welled up inside him. Having spent 2 precious months, he moved all the wood to the edge of the lake to prop it up, and then set it on fire. Char sat by, watching the fire blaze, with mixed feelings. Last season, he went through a terrible time, almost giving up this lifestyle. This year, things finally fell into place, and he achieved very significant results. Upon returning to his familiar home, Charlie didn't take a moment to rest before immediately setting about processing. He carefully scraped away any remaining fat from the beaver's skin before proceeding with the crucial shaping process. The market prefers oval-shaped leather, so he meticulously stretches it with just the right amount of force, because even a slight overstretching skin will become thinner, affecting the selling price. He lifted the edge of the skin to allow air to circulate underneath. That's how music produces the highest quality leather. Despite the hard work, Charlie was busy but happy because this is the lifestyle that Mr. Hang wants.
Wish.